Hello, hello. Is that working? Sorry. Let's get started. Let's get started, gent. So we're gonna start now. At the moment, with the EFF representative is on his way. I'm not sure if he's perhaps stuck in traffic, Mr. Bernard Johnson, but we'll get started for the moment. I want to start by welcoming everyone to this important occasion. I think that by us being here this evening, in our willingness to listen and debate one another on the subject of our politics, we are affirming our commitment to democracy and our desire to see it work better for all. In that spirit, I want to thank our panelists for their presence here, and I want to thank our audience in particular for being here. My role is a brief one. I just want to inform you a bit about the organizers of the event and some things we think you should be aware of. This big debate is hosted by Nkulu Freehate and SpeakUpMzansi. For those in the audience who don't know, Nkulu Freehate is a non-partisan youth movement which aims to create spaces for young people to engage of issues in politics and social issues in our country. We believe that democracy works best when citizens are aware of and engage with structures and institutions of our democracy. SpeakUpMzansi is an online platform formed by a collaboration between 5 organizations in South Africa concerned with the development of democracy in our country. The SpeakUpMzansi platform is aimed at better building conversations between citizens and elected officials. In this spirit, given our similar aims in trying to deepen participatory democracy, we have organized tonight's panel discussion/debate to provide a platform for all of you to engage directly with candidates who hope to represent you after the elections on the 3rd of August. You can learn more about the SpeakUpMzansi platform through the information on the flyers and the user guides in front of you. But just to explain a bit, the platform has 3 sections. First is the information resource section, where you can find out more about your political parties, the judiciary, and other information about South Africa's political system. Secondly, there's a Twitter feed, which gives you a snapshot of discussions currently happening on Twitter. Thirdly, lastly, is the Have Your Say discussion forums, where citizens from around the country can comment, post questions, and engage with one another. The SpeakUpMzansi app can be downloaded on Android and Windows. It hopes to act as a platform for information sharing and interaction between citizens both before and after elections. In the spirit of that desire for interactive citizenry, we encourage the audience to share their thoughts, questions, and impressions of tonight's debate via Twitter and the SpeakUpMzansi platform, both during the debate and after the debate, using these handles and hashtags. Also, we'd like to inform everyone that this event is being recorded using UCT's lecture recording technology, and we hope to share this recording through various online platforms as a way of keeping the conversation going beyond the hour that we have together tonight. Lastly, you should see attendance registers floating around the rows. We would really appreciate if you could complete these as a way of helping us record the extent of our reach. That's it for me. Without further ado, I will hand over to the National Chairperson of IFH, Rihanna Oldendaal, who will be moderating tonight's discussion. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Just let me properly attach myself to this microphone because I know I don't speak that loudly. Firstly, just to say, can you all hear me? People at the back, great. So firstly, just to say thank you for your patience. I know this wasn't the most prompt start that we would have hoped for, but I appreciate everyone who's stuck around. As Kanyiso said, this is a really good turnout at a time when youth engagement in politics is generally not considered to be something that runs through the ballot box. I think the fact that so many people have turned out to learn and open themselves up to engaging with our panelists is a really good sign. From IFH's, some of you guys that are sitting in the room here have already decided whether you'll be voting next week Wednesday or not, and if you are, who you'll be voting for. Others of you are still in the process of making that decision, and we hope that this event helps you in deciding one way or another. It's not IFH's job or intention to make that decision for you, but rather to facilitate the space where you can engage with some of the questions that you really have, and in the spirit of the SpeakUpMzansi platform, connecting citizens to their elected, or in this case, potential candidates for election. So, I just need to check we have enough seats. Yes, we do. From my side as a facilitator, I think that it is important for us, sorry, I think we might have got rid of a chair. There you go. It's important for us to recognize that this evening is not about coming to a consensus of, who the best party is. That won't be all of us in the room that agree on that, but it is an opportunity for you each to take away from the session what you need to. In that respect, I ask you to respect the fact that there will be significant differences in opinion, and we all have different politics. The space is not one that tries to force each other's politics on everyone else. As chair, I will try to ensure that from now on we stick to time so that we're all out of here before 8 o'clock, and make sure that we don't try to silence anybody that is sharing an opinion that's different to us. With that note, we are going to try and make sure, I'm going to introduce you to our panel. We've had a few last-minute changes to the panel, so I apologize if I introduce anyone incorrectly. Please feel free to correct me as you're going through. So from the ACDP, we have Mr. Zweli Tokai, who is the candidate for Ward 98 and 104, but is also the chairperson of the ACDP in the Western Cape. We have from the ANC, Ms. Nonseba Mlauli. Sorry, I didn't get your surname at the end there. And she is the ward candidate for Ward 56. From Al Jamaa, we have Mr. Khanif Hendricks, who is the party leader and has a background in education and labor policy. From the Congress of the People, we have Mr. Farouk Kasim, who is also a politics and economic researcher and advisor for the party. And from the DA, we have Mr. Zach Mbelele, who is an MP and current shadow minister. And from the EFF, we have Ms. Palesa Mtsabele. And I apologize, I don't have your designation at this point, but I welcome you to introduce yourself to the floor. The way that this evening will be structured is that we are now going to hear a short 3 to 4 minute introduction of the key points of the manifestos of each of the parties that are present as an introduction to those who don't know the policy differences between the groups. Then we will proceed to approximately 3, potentially 4 rounds of questions from the floor, and then we will have closing statements from the candidates. And I implore all of our candidates as well as our audience to, where possible, stick to that time as closely as possible. We will be timing the candidates in their 3-minute introduction, so you'll hear a little beep beep when 3 minutes goes, and if you can start wrapping up from there, that would be greatly appreciated. So if we can start in alphabetical order with the ACDP, please.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to correct you, Rahana. I'm not the chairperson of the ACDP in the province. I am rather the chairperson of the Provincial Council.
Okay.
Thank you very much. The ACDP has, as we're focusing on the local government, we've noticed something that is a shame in our country, is that the councillors tend to be a stumbling block between the government and the communities. That is really undermining the intellect of the country. That is really undermining the future of the country. As ACDP, that's our main focus, because before we start talking big words and coming up with all these political figures and all that, we just start with something that is supposed to be so basic that we're failing in our country. Councillors that are not doing what they're supposed to do. And we can go on and blaming them at some point and not blaming them, because councillors, they get 1 day of training and they will be in charge of a ward for 5 years. What will they do with 1 day of training? And besides that, there's a lot of things that are not being done, like basic things like the shadow minister next to me will remember that we talk sometimes. There's, for an example, 750,000 rand that's supposed to go to communities. These monies do not reach. Those are basic things that we're failing before we can go on and talk big words. So the ECTP is focusing on that. We'll make sure that this is our focus. We give the country councillors who will make sure that they deliver. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next, can we have the representative from the ANC?
Thank you very much. My name is Nonqeba Mhlauli, and I am the ANC ward candidate for Ward 59, which is basically the ward that we're in right now. What is local government about? I think we should start with just looking at what local government is about and how it affects us as individuals that live within our particular wards. Local government is about what affects you within or in your immediate sort of like community and surrounding. And if I look at myself and a lot of the other people, you know, that I've interacted with, there are 3 basic things that affect myself and people that I've interacted with in terms of various, you know, social spaces. The first thing is whether or not, you know, the community, because local government is essentially about the community that you live in, you know, and how services within that particular community are rendered to you, and how you relate with your city council. And if I look at my particular local community, which is the community of Rondebosch, Claremont, Newlands, and Kenilworth, the first issue that affects me as a young black professional within the southern suburbs is the issue of whether or not I can actually, you know, afford to live where I live. And currently, and that's the issue of inclusivity, you know, is the community that you live in inclusive of your needs as a particular person from a particular gender and a particular race? And I would argue that in its current form, it is not, because in its current form, you have a situation whereby the southern suburbs of Cape Town are not accessible in terms of its rental prices. And I actually believe that the city council, in terms of at a level of local government, has a responsibility to play in terms of ensuring that there is an integrated community that is developed in terms of housing, affordability, and just generally, you know, social integration. Because currently you have a situation whereby, in fact, last year, if you guys remember last year, there was a situation whereby black people were being beaten up. You know, there was the domestic worker who was beaten up in Kenilworth. There was the gardener who was also, you know, chased away because they believe that he doesn't live there. And there have been various other incidents of racism as well within the southern suburbs. And I believe that at a local government level, you know, there's an important role to play in ensuring that there's a push from your local councillor and from the local community in ensuring that the city council, you know, adheres to its responsibility to ensure that there is, you know, integrated, you know, development. There's so many pockets of land in and around the southern suburbs that can be used for integrated housing, and it's not being done. Instead, what's being done is that they take, you know, the land and they sell it off to private investors who then have these ridiculously, you know, expensive apartments that we cannot afford as young, you know, professionals that have just entered the job market. That's the first issue. The second issue is that affects me directly, and I'm sure everyone else here today, is the issue of community safety. In terms of how safe are our communities and how safe do we feel within our communities? And even then, even though the city council and the DA would like to argue that the issue of community safety is not a competency of local government, that is actually not even true. The city council actually does have, you know, a mandate in terms of, you know, ensuring that streets are patrolled and ensuring that they have your community policing forums, which are currently not in place. So I think for me that is the second most important, element that affects us directly. Thirdly, in terms of local government, it's also the issue of accountability. In terms of just having a ward council and a ward candidate. I don't know if anyone else here is, in fact, a ward councillor or candidate, for that matter. But if they are not, that just shows also the lack of accountability that these particular political parties would have in terms of just not a councillor that no one knows or a candidate that no one knows. But I think it's very important that we have, accountability, visibility of your local council and offers that we know, and also just the programs involved that your particular local councillor is involved with. Thank you so much
for those 3 points. I think those are quite clearly put across. And now, if we could have the representative from Al Jamaa, Mr. Hendricks.
Assalamu alaikum. Al Jamaa is a Muslim political party, and our aim is to improve the Sharia index in South Africa, which is an instrument that has been measured in many countries of the world amongst all its citizens. At the moment, New Zealand is number 1. The Arab countries are in the 50s because they don't practice the Sharia. South Africa is late 40s, and our aim is to make sure that South Africa in the next decade or 2 is in the top 10. I have a flat in Claremont, and I'm the ward councillor for Claremont, so please vote for me. An alumni of this university, a lecturer who was banned from taking up his place because he's African, and a shortlisted candidate who was blacklisted by the Vice-Chancellor to take up the chair of African Studies, wrote a paper on radical transformation. The Al Jamaa revolutionary policy is partly based on this paper, not because he was my roommate, but because the paper calls for reparations. So our manifesto rejects the policy of appeasement, which came from the days of Godessa, which governs the budget in the hands of the architect of inequality in the city of Cape Town. Our silver bullet is for a full and proper budget for every ward, and not this policy of appeasement to give money where you have the most trouble, and where you will get the most votes from, and where you can try and get more black voters. Our second bullet is an end to one-party rule, which is the greatest threat to our democracy. The nearest we got to radical transformation is not the programs of the new kid on the block, but it's a book which I published last month by Christine Kunta, where she says we are not a nation. She calls for voluntary reparations. Yes, there is still not enough money for municipalities to carry out their delegated responsibilities as a third tier of government. So the solution is the whites must pay reparations just as they pay a levy for gated suburbs and for extra services. We hope we'll have an opportunity to unpack a real radical transformation and not the diluted form that we seem to see popping up now and then.
Thank you very much, Mr. Next, we will have Mr. Kasim from the Congress of the People.
Thank you very much. Congress of the People is a party that believes in social democracy. We define it as neo-social democracy in order that we can make it a homegrown and modern social democracy. I have an extensive footprint on social media, so if you want to interrogate what I write and what I say, you can look at Cape Town. It can be found at the address at COPE, small letters, capital C, capital T. Now, the difference between social democracy and democratic socialism is the following. In social democracy, it begins with optimal and maximum democracy. And in democratic socialism, as in Russia and in China, you have minimal democracy. We believe that democracy also has to be redefined, and we redefine it as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, with the people, under the Constitution. We believe that the budgeting process at the municipal level has to be like the Brazilian model. Now, in that model, each ward gets to know what is its allocated share of the budget, and then they become directly involved in determining how to use that particular budget. Now, this allows for sweat equity and for contributions from NGOs and others to be built into that budget and therefore to extend the program of the city. We are the only party that insists that all parties should disclose party political funding, because people vote, but too often it's the people who are donating to the parties that get to call the shots. We would like to have an independent service commissioner, much like the public protector, at the level of municipal government. Such a person should be a qualified lawyer to be able to make sure that where councillors don't perform, they can go to the independent service commissioner. On our webpage, we have our policies, and we have set these out in the form of A to Z. So it's like encyclopedic, so you can go into the actual policy that you're looking for very, very quickly. The important aspect of municipal government is compliance with the Municipal Finance Management Act. And too many parties actually skirt around the MFMA, and that is where the problem lies. We are also a party that is totally green, green, green as can be. We believe in sustainable solutions.
1 more minute.
And in respect of City of Cape Town, we have 4 categories. We have got the urban, we've got the suburban, then we've got the townships, and then you have the informal settlements. Cape Town has 104 informal settlements. And the situation there is so deplorable that right now, in this rainy season, if you need to get from the road to your house, you will need to have gumboots. We need to transform that, and to transform that in a hurry in order that we prevent a situation of insurgency and rebellion which is mounting in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kasim. Mr. Mbelela from the Democratic Alliance.
Thank you very much, Rihanna. Good evening, Goeienaand, Molweni. My name is Zakhele Mpele, Member of Parliament for the DA. As the DA in the city of Cape Town, we are running and campaigning with the slogan, "Keep Making Progress." And what that's based on is saying that in the past 10 years of DA local governance, we've made great strides. But we know that there's much more work to be done. And so we want to continue making progress with a renewed mandate from the voters to continue turning around the city of Cape Town as the flagship of model local governance that it is. And there are many indicators we can point to. Rihanna asked that as part of this opening remark, we should talk about what the distinguishing feature is from each party. And as the DA, we can proudly say that we are the only party that has shown the best performance and the best outcomes on indicators of local governments compared to other current governing parties at local governments. And in fact, I will say that I do hope that my colleagues in the EFF actually win some municipalities so that come 2021, we have an equal basis of comparison as to whether they're able to bring through what they want to. But as the city of Cape Town, we have shown the best delivery record in access to basic services. We've got the most consistent record of clean audits, and clean audits means clean governance, zero corruption, and that means all the public funds that are meant to go to service delivery actually go there and do not end up in the pockets of cronies and pals. We have also shown that we have driven a very active and successful redress policy through various areas, such as, for example, public transport. The My City bus system is the most successfully implemented bus rapid transit system in the country, as compared to the Rea Vaya in Joburg. And of course, Nelson Mandela Bay has been a disaster where they bought buses that were too big for the actual bus lanes. And we've now extended and rolled out to the extent where we are able to connect our residents from Atlantis to Khayelitsha, from Mitchell's Plain to Imizamo Yethu, and thereby facilitate much better spatial integration and access to different parts of the city through affordable public transport. We also say as the DA that we have shown how we create the basic conditions and an enabling environment for investments and for entrepreneurship. And that's vitally important because that creates the environment for job creation. And this has been borne out in the first quarter of this year by the latest Labour survey, which showed that Cape Town was the only metro to actually gain in net employment creation by 4,000 compared to the other metros that have lost jobs by several dozen thousand. And so that is the basic offer of the DA. We're not going to promise a heaven and earth. We're not going to make pie-in-the-sky promises. We're saying this is the track record we have already shown. Many of you, if you have the chance to travel around, you will see the visible, tangible difference between the city of Cape Town under DA governance and delivery as compared to potholes in Joburg, non-functioning traffic lights, as well as
order in the house,
Chairperson,
please.
may I be protected?
If you can wrap up.
As well as the city of Cape Town, which you may not know, being the metro with the lowest number of bucket toilets compared to other metros.
Thank you very much.
We are delivering, and we ask for 5 more years. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Our final speaker from the panel, before we open up questions, is Palesa from the Economic Freedom Fighters. Again, the beeping sound will start at 3 minutes, and if you can wrap up after that so we can get to the questions, that would be great. Thank you.
Amandla! Amandla! My name is Palesa Mkopela from the EFF. I'm standing in for our chairperson, Bernard Josephs. As the EFF, what we cater for, we want to bring services to the poorest of the poorest. It is shocking when you hear the DA saying that their motto is making progress, because when you look at the poor in the Western Province, it is really, really bad. The Western Province is the epitome of racism and white privilege. And it is worrying me when I hear this gentleman talking as he is talking. When you look at the Western Cape, we have 2 economies. We have for the rich and for the poor. And we here, and I am here as the rep to speak for the poor of the poor, the ones that you see when you leave your Cape Town International Airport. The basic services that we want to bring is 24-hour clinic services for our people. The clinics in South Africa, what is happening is an injustice to our people. So we want to make sure that at least our people have proper medical health 24/7, because you know what? When our people get sick, it doesn't matter if it's during business hours. Sickness doesn't have hours, in fact, so we want to bring the best services to our people. We speak about housing. Housing, because when we have areas called such as Blikkersdorp, a concentration camp by the DA, putting our people in danger, and you know what? This is it is winter and fires are quite rough, and who is dying? Black people are dying while they're making progress. We also speak about the EFF municipality also wants to provide a free crèche in our communities, because what happens is that our teenagers do fall pregnant, and some of our elders cannot go to work because they have children to take care of. Therefore, we want to emancipate the black woman and make sure that she can be out there and actually educate herself and be part of the economy. The other things that we speak about is sanitation and water and electricity. People here in the Western Cape do not have sanitation. He's speaking about they have the best bucket toilets. Really, that is crazy. We need to actually take a stand and say that each and every human deserves a flushing toilet. We cannot be living today in 2016 and people do not have proper functioning toilets. In fact, in a community in Kailicha, a 21-year-old girl was raped because they do not have toilets. What they use are public toilets, and she was raped and murdered. These things should not be happening in the 21st century in 2016. And these are the type of services that we want to provide. We also want to bring something new, such as the insourcing of all service workers that the municipality will hire. We do not want people to be hired temporarily. We want them to be hired permanently so that they can get UIF benefits, pension funds, so that our people can stop being beggars. We also want to introduce something kind of like free quality education, such as having the counselor to adopt the schools around their area and actually make sure that they provided schools, they provided resources such as books, stationery, and make sure because what happens is that we do not know that how are the children in the schools. As we know, there's a lot of inequalities in South Africa. So what the EFF councillors should do is that have to research the children who are unable to actually provide for themselves and their families, so that children don't come to school hungry, and they're able to actually perform well academically.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all of the representatives. I think we did quite well in terms of keeping to time there, which means we have enough time for questions. The way that the question and answer session is going to be structured is I'm going to take questions in rounds of 6. The first round, I'm going to request that each question that is asked specifically at one of the political parties represented, and that we try to have one question per party for the first round. The rounds that follow will be more open. And so also just please note, please try to articulate your question or comment in under a minute. I'm going to be quite strict on this so that we give time to our panelists to respond, and also so that we can get to as many questions as possible. Thank you very much. So can I have some hands? We have Chris and Nico, if you can make yourselves evident, who will be bringing around things. So I'll take a hand there. I'll take a hand from the EFF here, a hand in front there, that's number 3. Are there any other hands?
There's one there and one at the back.
One hand there and one hand right at the back, and the lady in the blue. So what I'm going to do is if the question that is asked in this round is targeted at the same party you were going to ask, we'll have to shuffle that to the next round. Okay, so in this round, it's going to be one question per party. If we can start on that side.
Okay, my question goes to DA. As in 2014, 61% of the jobs went to whites, who are 18.3% of the province, while the blacks lost jobs in that particular period. Is that a progress we're talking about?
Thank you for making that a succinct question. I think the next question was here, the EFF lady in the front, and then over there.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm an EFF candidate for Ward 9, and my question goes to the DA.
Ma'am, we've had a question for the DA in this round, so if you don't mind either asking another party or keeping it for the next round.
It's actually for him, so I'm going to wait until the next.
Okay, that's fine. The next speaker. Okay, are there... Okay, do you have a question? Okay, thank you. Guys, if we can have a little... Yep.
Okay, my question is for Al Jama. So it's very refreshing to have new parties here in the Western Cape. It's very great. But the thing is with your party, it seems to be very ethnic based. So it's based on the Muslim faith and particularly the race. Some people contend that Muslim Islam is also a race here in the Western Cape. But I would like to then question, how would you guys, your party, would represent me as a black Xhosa-speaking resident? Are you only going to look after particular constituents? But also, I would like to correct my dear sir over there. Your party is not the only people that said that they're willing to disclose donors. The IFP also said that they're willing to disclose donors, so that's not true. And the question to you, sir, then, would your party be willing to disclose who is giving your party financial help? Because it will be able to, so we can navigate, who's getting tenders and what's going on there. Would you be willing to do that?
Thank you for
That's my
your
question
minute.
to you and your party.
So just to clarify, both of those questions were for Al Jama. Thank you very much. Also, to the representatives, I'm taking notes of questions, but if you can also obviously keep track of the questions that are directed at you. Additional hands, we had a lady over there in the back. Sorry, I know there are hands that we've recognized there.
My question is for the ANC. You spoke about patrol and safety around Cape Town, but what about places like Guguletu, Kailicha, Nyanga, Philippi, where rape and gangsterism is rife? Like, what do you plan on doing there? Because I feel like it's all easy to talk about how you'll implement more patrols or you'll send police out to do their jobs, but they never do. So what are you going to do when they don't do it?
Thank you for that question. Is there EFF hand over there? Okay.
Thank you. My question is directed to the EFF, and I must acknowledge that you eloquently addressed what you are intending to spend, what you are going to introduce, and some of which may appear radical and necessary. But I implore you to share with the audience on the other side of the equation of where is the money going to come from. And if there are equally radical insights on how is this going to be funded. And I would be interested if you are to address the role of the Ratepayers Association as a lobby group that enjoys the audience of the City of Cape Town leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. We are still looking for questions for the ACDP and for the Congress of the People. So if there are any hands at the back.
What happens when there's a contradiction, a very firm contradiction between the Constitution, the laws of the country, or someone's tradition, and your particular religious interpretation of values? Because we're a secular country, and I'm quite glad we are. And I don't want to see us become a country where not only one person's religion, but one person's version of that religion becomes dominant.
Thank you very much. Is there a question for Cope from the floor? Okay, then I think I will abuse my position. Last chance. Anybody? Question for Cope? I will abuse my position from the floor then and ask Cope the question of how important Given the given the position that COPE had as a breakaway party, I think it was 2 elections ago now, and the decline that we saw in support for COPE in the last local government election, what do you think should motivate voters in the Western Cape to reinvest their trust in your party? I will ask the panel to try and keep their responses to under a minute and a half, or to a minute and a half. We'll max out at 2 minutes, just for the sake of getting more questions on the floor. Is everyone happy with that? Okay, no one's shouting me down quite yet, so we'll see how it goes. And I think if we're happy to go in alphabetical order again. ACDP, would you mind starting us off? Do you need a reminder of your question?
Yeah, I still remember.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you very much. It's on, okay. Thank you very much. We did have a chat with you, sir, outside, and we talked about the issue of religion and all that, which is very difficult because each political party in our communities, religion tends to play a big role. But now, ACDP, I will not speak on behalf of Al Jamaa. They will speak for themselves. We are a party whose policies and the constitution is based on Christian values, as you all know, and biblical principles, as you all know. The most thing that we bring as the ACDP is not to harass people and go around and hang people and do all that as we're perceived to be, which was very wrong. We bring what is missing right now in the country after 20-something years of democracy. The issue of honesty, the issue of integrity. We spoke earlier, all these things that we have and we have planned to do, it seems as if what is missing is something that is supposed to be in the heart. No one has heart for people. I'm listening to EFF, I'm listening to the ANC, and here is the shadow minister next to me saying something that is contrary wrong. The numbers that he's talking about, if you go to the community, you don't see that. For an example, the clean audit that he's talking about.
30 seconds left.
Sorry,
30 seconds.
Okay, so what the ACTP is bringing back integrity, as we once were told by the ANC that the whole ANC, as long as ANC had religious people inside, it was okay. The day it kicked them out and things started going wrong. So we're bringing back that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next response will be from the ANC.
Thank you so much. It would have been nice if you were to tell us which religious leaders we kicked out and why we kicked them out, if they were indeed kicked out. On the issue of crime is quite important, and you're actually very correct in that the crime that we think that we experience is actually 10 times multiplied in your poorer communities, because where obviously there is, less policing, less patrolling, crime rates are higher. And in fact, the statistics actually show that where there is less police visibility, there is obviously more crime. And what is happening in the city of Cape Town? In the city of Cape Town, if you look at where your metro police are being deployed by your city council, you'll find that the metro police are being deployed to your CBD areas, they're being deployed to your leafy suburbs, they're being deployed to your sea point areas. Whereas at that particular point in time, you have Nyanga Township, which is actually, since a couple of months ago, rated as the murder capital of the entire world. And you will never, ever see, I don't know if anyone has seen metro police patrolling in that particular community. And see, that in itself is the problem in terms of what is the function of your local municipality, what is the function of your metro police in terms of your crime prevention, and where resources are allocated within the city of Cape Town. And right now, in terms of the metro police allocation within the city of Cape Town, it is not allocated or dispersed to the areas that need it most. The areas such as your Kylie Khayelitsha, such as Nyanga, and so on and so forth. Instead, it's being deployed where people basically just want to feel, not obviously we're all affected by crime, but where the Metro Police is needed the most, like your Manningburg, your Mitchell's Plain, and so on and so forth, you will never see it. And that is one of the issues that I was raising in terms of the city of Cape Town using its resources and allocating it appropriately where it's needed the most. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was... Excellent timing so far. If we can have our response from Al-Jamar to those
Thank you very much. We are not ethnic-based or a racialist party. Al-Jamar is a Muslim party for all South Africans. Now let me prove it. We know about the divisions in the PAC, and a large section of the PAC don't exercise their right to vote because of these divisions that they have. So Al-Jamar has given a platform to Mr. Makonja, a founder member of the PAC in Ekurhuleni, to be our mayoral candidate. I took 4 days from my election campaign to go to the Midlands in KZN. As you know, the National Freedom Party has been kicked out of the elections, and over 500,000 Jews have lost the franchise because they can't vote for their party. We've thrown them a lifeline so that they can return their deputy mayors and return their councillors to the seats they presently occupy. But you'll have to wait tomorrow for more details after the Electoral Court makes a final decision. So Al-Jamar has shown practically that we are a party for all South Africans. That's why out of 37 parties, we are the 5th best performing party in the Western Cape, and that's why we were invited to this gathering. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been invited. So thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you.
There's a question about the Sharia conflicts with the Constitution. South Africa has a constitution that accommodates diversity, and the Constitution has no quarrel. If we can convince you, the voter, to vote for our party, and we can improve the Islamicity index in this country, the Constitution provides all the space in the, and that's the uniqueness of the Constitution that many of us struggled for and which is now in place. So there's no contradiction between the Constitution and the fact that there is a Christian party or a Muslim party.
Thank you very much for that response. If we can have the response from Cope. Yes.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yeah, you see, you must think of social democracy as a great value. If you take the Nordic countries, in the last 70 years, there hasn't been another political system that has been as fair and as good to the people as social democracy. So that's what we are offering. What happened to COPE was that in 2008, we met at the great convention in Sandton, and there was great excitement of building a new party. We started that in 2009. And after that, the problem was that certain groups wanted to convert what was a policy conference into an election conference and to hijack the party because of the resources. We were then dragged from one court case to another court case until about late September. So by the time we got ready for election, much of our resources were drained because we had to pay millions to the lawyers, and eventually our performance really collapsed. But we're building again on the basis that we are strong social democrats. I'm delighted to hear that the IFP, I hope that's the official position, has also declared that it will want the money from funders to be made known so people know that there is transparency and there is accountability. And for that reason, and you would have seen
30 seconds.
Strong hope is on supporting the media freedom and the Constitution. That's why you should support COPE.
Thank you very much. If we can have our responses from the DA now.
Thanks very much, Rihanna. The question from the gentleman with the allegation that 61% of jobs in 2014 went to white people. I must confess, I don't know where that figure comes from. And I find it hard to believe when you consider that, I mean, white unemployment on average, if it's not below 10%, it's at least between below 15% or thereabouts. We all know that white unemployment is quite low. And so if you consider the larger context in the Western Cape, that unemployment in the province over the past few years has dropped.
Guys, please respect the speakers.
Chairperson, I think we need to regulate the conditions under which we have this debate. So if unemployment, as has happened last year, dropped below 20% to about 19%, from a high of about 23%, as I recall, around 2012-13, the majority of those jobs going to white people off a very low base already. The figures don't add up for me. And then, as a corollary to that, when you look at what have been the growth sectors in the Western Cape, such as business process outsourcing, or the call centers that have been established. We know about Yahoo's come in, Google's come in. There was a UK company that came in a few years ago as well. All of those jobs overwhelmingly go to young, black and colored job seekers. So without having the facts, and I want to make it abundantly clear that we only deal in facts. All the stats and the figures that I quote are from a government report or an NGO report, and it's been tested, researched, and verified. So, we can have the rhetoric and the propaganda, that's fine. But I can only respond on the basis of facts and to quote and to cite facts. And so without having any clearer background on that, I can't respond to that specific allegation, but I can say it doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you for that response. Just to be clear, if we interrupt the speakers while they are speaking, I am going to allocate them longer time, so please try not to do that. So I think that's quite a good follow-on to the question that was asked of the EFF. So Palisa, if you don't mind responding.
Thank you very much, sir, for that question. As black people, the question of funding is always, quite big because we never actually experience the wealth of South Africa. We always get to see other people enjoy it. And South Africa is quite a rich country, as in we do export platinum. And especially here in the Cape Town, we export wine and rooibos. And it's time that our people actually get to reap those fruits and not be enjoyed by white people alone. And when we talk about funding, we say that our funding some of it will come from taxing the white privileged people of South Africa and also the black elite, which it merged due to the corruption of the ANC and them compromising our black people. The other issue of funding is that we are very clear, we are here to nationalize and also bring industrialization. And then the EFF councillor also wants to make sure that they introduce people into the economy, making sure that people produce their goods and are introduced to markets and are able to sell. When I'm talking about people producing is that we do have small subsistence farmers in our communities. We even have a farm, not even a farm, but like a garden in our university at UWC, and it's producing quite good vegetables that we can sell. When I talk about introducing people into the market and making sure they're part of the economy, I'm talking about we have our uncles who are good at building houses and are good in construction. However, they always go to seek employment. The EFF councillor should be able to help these people get the skills that they want and make sure that they open themselves companies instead of going to seek employment. But this thing is done when people are giving the skills and the information to do that, and actually shown this is where you can advertise, how do you advertise, because such information is not easily given to us black people, as education is a privilege and not a right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So those of you that are keeping track of the time will see that it's now 7:30, which is unfortunately not as much time for questions as we would like. So what I'm going to do is extend the number of questions that we take in this round from 6 to 10, and then ask that the responses, each party will be allocated, again, 3 minutes for concluding time, and that responses to those questions be added on to your concluding time. So this will be the final round of questions. And so I ask you to please indicate, and Chris and Nico, if you can show yourselves. Okay, let's start from the top at the back. If we can have the lady here from the ANC. You have already asked a question, so I'm going to move to you, sir. Okay, to this. So in the front, let me track that. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I can, I'll take the lady from the EFF in the front here. I'm going to stop at 5 there so that I can note people on the side of the room as well. I see 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, but we'll go again if your questions have not been raised from the lady over here. So if we can start at the back, please.
Good evening, everybody. My name is George Yankees. I'm a PR candidate for the EFF, and my question goes to the DA. And it's very simple, sir. Why, when houses get allocated to people within the Western Cape, the DA claim the victory? But when the community cry for houses, the DA blames the ANC. Can you please answer that, sir? Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question in front here.
My name is Vuyo. My question goes to the DA. Can I?
Yeah.
Okay. So, as someone who grew up in Guguletu and then came to school in Newlands, there was a vast difference in service delivery. I need to know from you, why is that? Why is there a difference in how you deliver services in Guguletu and Khayelitsha and how you deliver services in Camps Bay, Sea Point, Rondebosch? You were boasting about no potholes, but in Philippi there are potholes. There were pictures just the other day. You boasting about no potholes, and the only place that doesn't have potholes is Rondebosch, Camps Bay, all of these places. Why is there inequality in how you deliver services?
Here. In front. You've already asked your questions so far.
Okay, my question's to the ANC. It's a known fact that the ANC is in fact imploding in this province. Your party structures are ripe with factionalism and infighting. Your provincial chair and your provincial secretary are facing disciplinary proceedings, one for sexual assault. Hundreds of former ANC members are crossing the floor to the DA, including Seskona. How can we trust your party to govern this city when you cannot even govern your own structures?
Let us see, the order was there, and then to the lady. Oh, have you transferred? No, yeah, it's there. Which one? You? I can't see you.
I'd like to address my question to COPE, the representative for COPE. You speak about how COPE is a social democratic party, and you mention examples of the Nordic countries, and you mentioned the Brazilian example. My question is, in terms of local government, what exactly does it look like in tangible terms to say that you're a social democratic party? And what does that mean, and how will it be implemented? Because you can't copy and paste from a Nordic country that is a developed country and implement it in South Africa, which is a developing country.
Thank you for that question. Have you ladies decided which? Oh, sorry, it was this man first, and then to you.
Good evening. My name is Ishak. I'm a candidate for Al Jama, Ward 49. I want to ask a question to the whole panel. Ladies and gentlemen, if we look at the Cape Flats, Khayelitsha, all the other areas, we look at the youth. We all speak about housing, potholes and that stuff, but nobody cares about the youth. If we go into our areas, there's no sports facility, proper sports facility. If we go into Sea Point, Camps Bay, all these areas, I mean, I play cricket, I play soccer, I play rugby. You go onto these fields, you enjoy yourself. You get back to your own township. You can't even play sport. As it's raining now, you can't go practice on the fields now at this present moment. What are you guys going to do about that also? Especially to the youth. I'm an old man already now. So we're thinking about the youth. Because the youth is the future of this country.
Thank you very much for that question. Who of you two are going to ask a question? Okay. You can ask. Oh, sorry. Chris, speedily.
Good evening, ladies. My question is to the GA. As I look back, in the beginning of this year, Patricia de Lille said in a newspaper article in the Tiger Burgers, he said something about the backward dwellers will get electricity boxes, they will get water facilities and toilets. But when I look back now, where's the water facilities, where's the electricity, where's the toilets? As local government, you talk about service delivery in our areas. My question to you is, do you think in your own capacity, the DA has done enough to govern the province again?
Thank you very much for that question. So, the hands that were remaining were 1, 2, 3, 4, and there were hands at the back. Have those hands gone down? Okay, then I'll take the lady with the cap. Okay, so those are going to be the 10 questions. If someone has captured the essence of your question, please be generous and pass it on to the next person. Okay, thank you. So if we can start there.
Thank you very much. My name is Ngosi Khulile. I just want to ask from each one of you, if you do not win the elections, will you accept the outcome? If you do not get the outcome.
It's a fair question.
And also on the point that if you get the majority, but you do not, if you get the large number or the largest number of votes, but not the majority, who will you form coalitions with on that table, or who will you not, as it may be applicable in terms of coalitions?
Thank you for that question. So that was for the entire panel. The hand that we had at the back is no longer looking at us. Are you next to Nteba? Yes, that's you. The next person.
Hi, my name is Ndondo Nzama. I think my question is to the ACDP. Quite frankly, it's kind of one of those parties that give me many chest pains, because you mentioned that your policies are informed by the principles of the Bible. Now, the very Bible considers some people or other people of this country an abomination. Now, as a queer female, I have to ask, what would your party do to make sure that my rights are protected and that your policies also see me as a human being? And also, so what kind of support would you be providing? Thank you.
The next hand is here in front. You are next, and there was a hand there, but...
To the DA. I want to ask you one question. Do you understand the ideology of the DA to the development of our country? Capitalism is a self-individual benefit of the economy, and leaders of the DA, they are the capitalists. DA is creating jobs. What kind of job? If a person earns 2.7, 3,000. That man is not enough for food security. That is a slavery, indirect slavery. So don't tell me about DA. Don't tell me about DA. Thanks. And two are not good in the foreign language. Pause.
Thank you. To the lady with the cap over there. And then I think if we can take the sir at the back with the bag next to him. And then those will be all of the questions. Sorry, your hand wasn't up in the first round that we went around. Okay, if we haven't hit quarter two, then I'll take your hand and then I'll call it. So 1, 2, and hopefully 3, and then unfortunately that'll have to be it. If we can have your question.
Evening, everyone. My name is Angel Mukai. The question is for the DA. The issue of crime and gang violence is very serious in the city of Cape Town. So do you as a political party feel that you've done enough for the poor in this city regarding all this crime, seeing as there's more crime taking place in townships than there is in the southern suburbs of Cape Town? Thank you.
Okay. To the sir at the back with the bag next to him. Nico, if you can bring the microphone here so that we can...
So I'm Ghalib Galant with the Right to Know campaign.
Okay.
And my question is to the 3 ward councillors who are actually standing in the local government elections. There's been a lot of talk about accountability and accountability to ward residents. Would those of you who are standing as councillors be willing to give ward residents in your ward the right to recall you if you don't perform, if you misconduct yourself, you make yourself guilty of tender irregularities, for example, for the ward residents to do that, not the party. So whether you're standing on an ANC ticket or an ACDP ticket doesn't matter, but would you, because the ward residents elect you directly, would you give them that right?
Thank you very much, and we will take our... And so that is directed at the 3 ward councillor people that are sitting on the panel. And if we can take the last question from the floor here.
Hello, Mlingan Matiwani Rosemas 4. So I have a question about, and it goes to the floor at large, that floor, obviously. There's been a very serious repression of academic freedom in majority of the universities on campus, specifically at UCT, given the context that we find ourselves in. I want to ask why, first of all, a majority of the parties that we find before us have been quiet about that direct repression of academic freedom and freedom of expression when students were expelled and suspended at this university. And then secondly, each of you, if you are to be so blessed to win provincially or regionally, you will have the freedom to, in the next cycle, which is literally in the next few months, 30th of July, June has passed, so you're going to have the freedom to choose people who are going to sit on the council of this university, UWC, and other universities as well. So I ask then, if you have any incentive to make sure that the people that sit on those councils are not the same faces that have been there for the longest time, continuing a culture of repression at our universities. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So we have 15 minutes left. I'm going to give, try and do some maths now, 3, okay, so each party will have officially 2 minutes to do their concluding statements. I will allow the DA an extra minute and a half because they received additional questions. I ask that the floor please not be disruptive in the party's responses so that we can all get out of here on time, and also so that people have the freedom to actually articulate themselves clearly. So I think let's actually maybe just in terms of timekeeping wise, Zach, would you mind responding first? Okay, thank you. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3.5 minutes, and you can push it to 4, but 3.
All right, thanks very much, Rihanna. There's a lot to get through, so I'll try to cover as much ground as possible. I think I want to, and I'm going to jump around, I want to start with a very important question from the young lady. She was up here somewhere about why the difference in delivery between Gugulethu and Newlands, Khayelitsha, and Camps Bay, the examples she gave. So, noting that this is against the backdrop of the most effective cross-subsidization scheme we have in the country, where almost 70% of our service delivery budget is spent in poor communities. The reason for that tangible difference you see around potholes is because the places you see with the potholes and the poorer service delivery is because those are ANC wards with ANC ward councillors under ANC sub-councils. And can I explain why that's the case?
Order.
Can I?
Guys, please allow the political party representatives
I need to explain.
to respond.
I need to explain why that's important. The reason that is important is because the way the city works in terms of fixing potholes and street lights and traffic lights is because a ward councillor has to lodge what's called a C3 notification on the system, and that activates either pothole repair, streetlight repair, verge trimming. A team is dispatched. The DA councillors do that. ANC councillors do not, because they want to propagate and perpetuate the narrative that the DA does not deliver in ANC areas. Secondly, those ANC sub-councils under which Khayelitsha falls and Philippi have delegated authority and delegated budgets to undertake specified delivery functions. They are not functioning. Thirdly, every single ward councillor gets an annual budget of 750,000 Rand to spend at their discretion on projects in their wards. The question you must ask your ANC ward councillor: how have you spent your almost R1 million budget that you have for this ward? I know how my councillor spent it in the City Bowl. He upgraded the children's play park in Borkop. Okay, so you must ask your ward councillor how they spend the money they are given to improve the conditions in that ward. It's that simple. It's that straightforward.
There's a minute
Everything
for you to
else,
conclude.
Sorry?
There's a minute for you to conclude.
Thanks. Everything else that needs to happen that happened centrally from the council, like bulk infrastructure, installation, upgrade, maintenance, is done. We had concrete road in Nyanga upgraded to become tarred roads. We've expanded and replaced and upgraded water mains. So what the city needs to do centrally does get done, but the responsibility on the part of the ward councillor to do their job, and if they're not doing it, that question must go to them. The other big question that cuts across issues of gang and drug crime, backyard dwellers, basically the question was, have we done enough? As I said at the beginning, we've made great strides, and we have the record to show for it. But there is still more work to be done, and there are still more improvements to be made, and that is the opportunity we're asking for. Cape Town is the only metro with a backyard dwellers program in the first place.
Please allow him to finish.
There's no other metro with a backyard dwellers program, so we are already out of the stables. Coalitions, we're in it to win it, not even thinking about it. Capitalism, slave wages, the DA's ideology. Look, quite frankly, it is very clear that the EFF does not understand the basics of governance and creating prosperity. Remember, the EFF's model is Venezuela, and that type of socialism.
Thank you,
Look
Zach.
what Venezuela is now. Do you want that?
Zach? Thank you for trying to get through those questions in the limited time. I would like now to revert to our alphabetical order. It's for the conclusions. So, ACDP, if we can have your final 2 minutes of concluding and response to the question that was posed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rihanna. My first response will go to the gentleman at the back there who was asking about what will a candidate do to a ward. I'm in Ward 104, which covers Danone and Morningstar and all that side. We've worked well with the resident there. There are about 7 political parties there that we've managed to come number 2 according to the residents. But this is what we have promised. Whether we win or not, we'll continue to serve the community equally. And we have started that because that was our plan that we wanted to do. So we'll continue working with the community, and we want to put the community first. And that is very much practical if you go there. There are some stuff that are really offensive that are being said by the shadow minister next to me, but I won't go there because I don't have all the time. I want to go to the honorable member there whose chest pain has been. We're very sorry that we have caused you that, and many of you, but I would like to believe, correct me, are you in the LGBTI community? Correct? It doesn't matter. We cannot do that. The constitution of the country does not allow us to do that.
I think he means the constitution of the country does not allow for discrimination against sexuality.
It does not allow us to cause anyone a chest pain. But this... Rihanna, I wonder, because I can tell what people are thinking in this room. ACTP is perceived as a party that wants to kill the LGBTI community. Now, that's not true. It's not true, and I'm calling that if you can allow us, or avail us an opportunity that will engage with the community and be able to speak and get us into a common ground of what is our approach to this. But there's no way that we can do that. There's no way. Thank you.
Thank you for that closing. What I would encourage is, in terms of engagement further, we do have some Twitter handles, but you can also come and get contact details from any representatives that you'd like to follow up that you don't get questions here. I would like to now move on to the ANC for your closing 2 minutes.
Great. Thank you for all the questions. Very quickly, I'd just like to correct the untruth that I'm supposed to say it's a lie, but I'll say it's an untruth that Zach just told regarding the services in your ANC-run wards versus the services in your DA-run wards. It has everything to do with budget allocation. If you look at the last financial year, in the city of Cape Town, 22 ANC wards were allocated 130 million. That's 22 ANC wards. Do you know how much 5 DA-run wards were allocated? 445 million rand. So it has everything to do with budget allocation. It has everything to do with skewed allocation. It has everything to do with taking resources to people that don't need them and not giving services to people that need them the most. It has absolutely nothing. It has absolutely nothing to do with ANC councillors not being able to report things. It has everything to do with ANC councillors not having enough money in their wards. By the way, the ANC-run wards in the city of Cape Town are the poorest of the poor. And the city of Cape Town still allocates less money to those particular wards, which, by the way, also have more people in terms of the population. Coming to the questions. The question regarding academic freedom. In fact, the gentleman would be very happy to know that in the last quarter, just before Parliament closed, there was actually a bill that the National Department of Higher Education had actually introduced, which looks at the issue of institutional autonomy. Because what you'll find is that institutions of higher learning will use the excuse of institutional autonomy to clamp down on, free debate and academic freedom within institutions of higher learning. So that is a bill that is currently in Parliament that has been introduced by the ANC-led government in ensuring that institutions of higher learning stop not wanting to transform in the name of institutional autonomy. But over and above that, as your ward councillor, I definitely would want to sit on the council of UCT in terms of ensuring that I influence important decisions such as your free education and so on and so forth. Just one, there was one more. Would I want to form a coalition? The ANC in other parts of the country, it does actually have municipalities where it governs with other political parties, so that is definitely something that is within ANC policy. Coming to the issue of youth development, the youth and youth development, as a young person myself, obviously, that affects me directly. And first and foremost, I believe that young people must lead, and young people should take the lead in terms of their own development. But over and above above that, the city of Cape, in fact, the Western Cape,
I'm
is
going to
the
have to
only
cut you off
country.
in 10 seconds.
Can I just finish this particular question? The Western Cape is literally the only province where youth jobs under the DA have actually gone down. If you guys look at stats that say in terms of youth employment over the past 10 years, since 2009, youth jobs have actually gone down in the Western Cape. Over and above that, the Western Cape is the only province under the DA where there's no cooperation between the Western Cape government and the NYDA. And over and above that, the Western Cape is the only province that doesn't send young medical students to Cuba. Those are all indications that the DA does not care about young people.
The one question that I'd like to remind the panelists and hopefully the councillors that are on the panel will be able to respond to at the end, potentially directly to the Right to Know representative, is about this idea that was raised about being able to be recalled by the constituents that are in your ward or the residents of your ward as opposed to your political party. Just for the last two councillors that missed that. So then we will move to Al-Jamar for your closing statements, if we can, please.
Thank you very much. The Right to Know cannot make demands without themselves giving something back. So if we satisfy their demands, they must undertake to vote for the party. The issue with regard to the outcome of the elections, Al-Jamar is against one-party rule, which is the greatest threat to our democracy. So even if we have a landslide win, that is if all of you vote for us and your families vote for us, we will still have a multi-party mayoral committee to run the city. The issue of disclosing funds, you don't want to know about where Al-Jamar gets its funds and how much funds it is. You will feel so sorry for Al-Jamar that after that, you make a campaign contribution. I will leave my hat for any contributions.
Order.
South Africa needs a strong Muslim party as we have good policies to share with lawmakers, and we're the only party that really understands radical transformation. The DA spends 70% of the budget on the poor, so they brag, but they only meet 1% of the needs. So they don't know how to spend money. The DA.
Order, please.
Mugabe is very jealous of the DA because of the white land grab in Cape Town, the latest District 6. Puts Mugabe to shame. That's the loudest applause. I will not say anything further. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping under time. If we can have our closing statements from Cope.
Thank you very much. 2016.
Order, please.
2016 is going to be the watershed in our politics. Henceforth, our politics is going to be very, very brutal, very hard. The honeymoon is over. In tangible terms, we support the idea of recall fully. It's central to social democracy. How will it work tangibly? Social democracy is meant to attack the inequality. Cape Town is one of the most unequal cities in the world, according to the Gini coefficient. And we would have to attack that inequality if we want stability and not a revolution, because that's what will come. We feel that people, the whole question about local government is resources, money, who gets to allocate it, who gets to determine how that money is going to be used. And if that is put in the hands of ordinary people, then they know there is transparency, no shamming, no crookery. This is the amount of money. How can we make our money work to the best advantage of our community? So social democracy wants to attack that inequality. And much of what the EFF is saying is what we will have to, whether we like it or not, attend to that, because those are the imperatives of the moment. We either have, become the agents of change or become the victims of change. But this is the watershed, and mark my words, the situation henceforth is going to be brutal. It's going to be hard. We have to do the hard yards before we are able to enjoy a stable and a fair society, and that is what COPE is committed to doing, to making sure that social democracy prevails, that there is equality, and that there is social justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last comment from the panel before we close the event will be from the EFF.
I will answer a question on youth development. One thing that the youth of South Africa called for last year via the movement of Youth Must For was free quality education, a plea which has been ignored because without free quality education, black kids cannot make it. And also helping black kids to actually open their own companies and stop seeking employment. Because seeking employment means that we have to be the slaves of white people who are actually owning companies right now. Therefore, black students should be given the skills to actually open their law firms when they're out of university. Some of our manifesto actually speaks about creatures, having free creatures in our communities to make sure that there is early childhood development for the youth. And something that we still need to pursue is free quality education because, as we've heard, that there will be a 6% increase in higher education fees next year. Therefore, we should guard it. There was a question asking whether we will accept the elections results, and the answer is yes, we will accept it. Because as the EFF, we have volunteers which are strong and fearless and who will be there to actually guard whether there is no corruption, or because we know that there is a lot of rigging and irregularities that happen during elections. And then on academic and student repression is that until we have a decolonized education, there always will be academic repression and no autonomy for the black students. And it's something that the EFF, we have been fighting for, is the decolonization of education from creatures until the institutions of higher learning. And we have been fighting for students who have been suspended because universities and council bully students. Even in fact, we have a student with us who have been suspended from university for a year for actually protecting workers who have been sexually harassed by the private security company of the rector at UWC. Therefore, we are active in fighting for students, and we do say that we need your solidarity with students of UCT so that we can protect students. Because if they're able to do this, they'll be also doing it to all of us and the workers, which is something that we don't need. Therefore, we need South Africa to actually listen to the youth because we are the future. Amandla.
Thank you very much. I'm going to close the event now, but I think what is very evident is there are a lot more questions to ask. There's a lot more engagement, a lot more information that people need access to. I really encourage you, everybody in this room, between now and next Wednesday, to go back, look at the manifestos of the parties represented here. In case you're wondering how they were selected, these are the parties who came in the top 6 of the last election in the Western Cape in 2014. And so they do all have substantial supporter bases. They do have control over certain municipalities. And so compare the facts, compare the figures, compare the policies that you've learned about here, and engage either through the SpeakUpMzansi website or through Twitter or directly through your ward representatives, and make the time to educate yourself about what your decision on Wednesday the 3rd of August will be. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for sticking to a very rushed time, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you. Oh, and there's food outside if people would like some.